What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV and our coverage of House of the Dragon Season 2. So this is going to be Episode 3, The Burning Mill. And man, I'm just going to say I really like this episode. Really excited to get into it. What are our initial top-of-the-line 35,000 feet takes?
This episode should have been called The Burning Millie Alcock. That's what it should have been called.
Yeah.
But this episode was good. This was good. I don't know. It's so hard to decide what the best episode is when you're living in the like we're less than 24 hours since it aired. It's so hard to really just put like until we have this whole podcast conversation decide what the best episode was. But this is definitely not my least favorite. So I'm still deciding if it was my favorite or if episode 2 was. But this was so good. One of my sticking points for the show has always been about the non-leveled playing field between Team Black and Team Green for the fans, but it felt like Team Green was imploding this week, specifically with Alicent, who burnt all of the goodwill that I had built up for her mentally with this last scene, where I am so arrogantly Team Black now after my spiel last week saying without Kristen Cole, I would have been Team Green. Completely changed my mind. I am so Team Black now after this episode. Aegon reverting to himself, like his childish self, and messing with Aemon was also bad for Team Green. And then, yeah, just a bunch of things. Like you could feel Otto missing. So Team Green suffered this episode, but in an entertaining way where it feels like the playing feels a lot more leveled. And I really like that going into the main part of the battle that's coming up. And then the other thing I'll just say is that this might have been Kristen Cole's best episode. And not that he even was great this episode. It was just his best by comparison. And that's more for Kathleen, because I know Kyle doesn't agree with that. But other than that, man, I was so pleasantly surprised to see Millie, just even for like one line delivery. That was great. Harrenhal getting explored by Daemon was a fantastic visual. I never really got the grasp of the castle from Game of Thrones as much as you do in House of the Dragon walking through it. But more dragons. I think Daemon's kids killed it too with Baya and Rhaenyra for different reasons, which we'll talk about. But overall, fantastic episode. And that last scene, man, I cannot wait for us to talk about that one.
Definitely. The last scene, never in a million years did I think we were going to get a scene with Rhaenyra and Alicent talking about Viserys in his last moments. I thought that was forever going to be the like misinterpretation heard around the world, like just terrible miscommunication. So excellent. I mean, electric from both Emma and Olivia there, just so electric. Can't be topped. It's so fucking good. But I loved this episode, and I was saying before we hopped on that it was just so much going on with the Brackens and the Blackwoods and then Ulf randomly joining, and it's all over the place, which is fun, and I love it. So I don't have much to say other than, I did want to say, Millie, remember, was it in the hype video when I asked if Millie would ever come back?
Yeah.
I think, I was like, is there any chance like a flashback or something? And this was even better. I like that, you can tell that as much as Daemon just kind of like said fuck off to Rhaenyra and bounced, now Millie's like young Millie's living rent free in his mind, obviously. So it's good to know.
Wraps too. I didn't have any cameo spoilers for me.
It was awesome. And honestly, it took me embarrassingly too long to figure out who it was. I thought it was going to be like their mom or something, like just from the back until she started talking. I was like, oh, right. Of course.
I have a more embarrassing guess later, but I'll bring that up when we're talking about the actual scene.
Okay. Kai?
I really enjoyed this episode again. This is just really turning into fantastic television if it was not already. I said it in our group chat after the episode, but I felt like every plot line had very good progression. All these characters, things happened that developed them, that settled them in the world, that just gave them maybe additional motivations or, interesting things to do and interesting pairings of characters and things. So I just thought that this was a success. This was a great adaptation. I thought of the content that's in the book, especially based on the way that they've already made the show. Like decisions they've made previously obviously impact decisions they can make now because they've cut some ties and things like that. And I just thought that this was just a wonderful 65 minutes or whatever it was. So I just really enjoyed it. All right. So the way that we cover these episodes, if you are not familiar with the podcast, is we try to bucket things as much as possible so that we're not just like trudging through each scene chronologically and it kind of maybe gets a little boring after a while. So we'll actually have 3 buckets. This will be our first 3-bucket episode. The initial bucket we'll talk about will just be Daemon and Harrenhal. He's just pretty much isolated from everyone else, so that makes it nice and easy. And then we're trying again we'll do our team green and team black. A little more overlap this episode than there has been previously. Probably a hint that in future episodes it will be also a little less clean, but we're not worried about that right now because we're doing episode 3, the Burning Mill. So I just have Daemon taking Harrenhal as everything. I don't know if we really even want to break it down into individual scenes. I think we could just talk about it all freely.
Like I already said at the top, like I loved seeing the visuals that they decided to use Caraxes as he's flying by. It's dark. All of the wood, all of the stone structures look broken down. We find out later, and we've known this a while. It was from one of the previous Targaryen dragons that destroyed the whole castle, and you got to feel the emptiness and the terrible condition that Daemon's like wading through. He wants a fight. Like you could see it on his face as he's looking around. Like he wants to prove himself. He's hot off of that conversation with Rhaenyra, if you take it back to episode 2. So he wants to do something, and it seems like he's almost a little disappointed how the other strong, Simon Strong, just kind of bends the knee right away. Like this whole thing took him by surprise. I'm sure it took all of us by surprise as well. But most notably, my eyes went directly to this new character that we're going to probably talk about. We didn't get a name drop yet for this girl that is looming in the background and seems to be Melisandre-esque, where she either has some sort of magic connection where she's like tuning into Daemon and like really trying to add the mystery of like that Game of Thrones is known to do with this high magic system or a soft magic system, whatever, whenever they have like premonitions or something like that. But this was a good scene. I like that it cleared up, Kyle, your issue from earlier this season where Simon comes out the gate and says, we don't fuck with Larys. Like Larys is not somebody that we bend the knee to. Because I think you brought up either in the hype or the first episode when they're talking about, I think it was Aemon and Kristen Cole were talking about like we got to go get Harrenhal. It's the most important spot for the Riverlands, but Larys should technically be the owner of it, and he is. But it seems to be usurped from the family that knows that he was in on killing Larys's brother and father,
Larys's dad. Who is Simon's nephew. This was
this dude.
It seemed to imply that there's been some level of maybe interaction between Simon and Larys, Simon and the Red Keep, because how would they know that he's anti Team Green, which is fine. I mean, it makes total sense. He explained it very well here.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware that it was a well-known fact that Larys was probably who killed his dad and brother. That was cool. I thought the whole Simon thing was comical. This was like the comedy of the episode. It was so fucking funny. Like even Daemon just like yelling, I'm claiming Harrenhal, was giving like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy. Like it's just absolutely silly.
Apparently so.
Yeah, apparently so. Really good. But the only stupid thing I have to say is this was the first time I noticed like Daemon's going through Harrenhal. It's damp, it's wet, it's dark, and he's in this full armor. And those masks, or not masks, but helmets, are so not functional. Like they cover like so much. And if you see later, when Kristen Cole and Gwayne and them are leaving, Gwayne's actually goes around his face. It's way more functional, whereas everyone else's is like there's no peripherals. You can't see anything. It's like the person has to be like right here in order to see. It's crazy.
Did you see them talking? I guess it's Fabian and Matt Smith, and they're talking about wearing the armor on set, and they're like, it's actual torture.
Yeah,
like you cannot move. You can't you have to completely turn your body to see anything. Like you can barely hear people. So yeah, it's definitely an actual thing that those things are just bulky and just absolutely not functional.
But his armor looks so sick, and I know we said this last season. I just love the Daemon look. It's just so unique even for Game of Thrones standards. So it's so you could spot him like in the middle of a battlefield basically. It's just cool to see. But also the thing I hated about this first initial scene was that Daemon is standing on the idea that he is your grace and instead of your prince. I wanted to kind of lay that up to you, Kathleen, of thoughts before we really talk about that, because to me this is like a bothersome trait that he has. Yeah. And like, it's time to get over this like rebellious internal Team Black strife. I think I thought the point of him going here was to prove to Rhaenyra that he was loyal, but it seems like he's still being the rogue prince.
So when Alicent was queen consort, what did people call her?
It's a good question. I
I
mean,
thought it was Your Grace, but
yeah, I would agree that this somewhat confused me as
me
well.
too.
I would assume because it's such a big part of these scenes that it's different for the king consort. That's
Has there ever
literally the
been
only
a
thing I
king
could think of.
consort? Is there any
No,
precedent?
I
Right.
mean, Rhaenyra is the first queen. Well, how legitimate of a queen is it? Obviously, the argument of the entire series,
Yeah,
but she is a queen. Yeah.
And to make it
definitely.
weirder, Kristen Cole calls Alicent Your Grace later, even though Helena should technically be Your Grace, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, he's a little weird too. We know that.
Yeah, he is weird
Well, if
with all that.
Helena's Your Grace, then we're Team Black. Damon's Your
Yeah.
Grace. You know,
Okay.
I
But
me,
they wouldn't have had the dialogue then, right?
Yeah. So
that's why it confused me.
it's
Mhm.
got to be something with the. We're obviously not familiar with monarchy and how all that stuff would work. So yeah, I don't really understand that.
But maybe it's not a problem and like he should be Your Grace and that wasn't the issue about like who the real leader is and it was more about just like basically explicitly show that we're the king and queen. And that's fine. Then that kind of clears it up for me. I just thought it was more about him saying like I'm the king and that's just the vibe I
Yeah.
got from it.
I
Yeah, that's a
think,
good point.
yeah,
They could just be saying
definitely.
that this guy is isolated, locked
Yeah.
away, not used to dealing with these people. He's only ever known Daemon as like a prince. So
Mhm.
Were
And
we
that's
supposed to
fine.
take that he didn't know what a throne was?
again, very unsure of what that meant the first time I watched. Second time too, I mean, it made me laugh both times for
Yeah.
sure. But I couldn't tell if Sir Simon was like, "Don't you already have the throne? Like, do you need to take it?" Type. I didn't get that at
Mhm.
all, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I
Very
wanted
curious.
I do want to talk about. I mean, we could talk about the Millie Alcock of it all, but I do want to talk about this like Adams family figure, the unnamed
Mhm.
woman. I'm taking what she said as Bible. Like I'm like, oh, Damon dies at Harrenhal, huh? It's interesting. like,
That
I'm like facts.
It was very
I
matter of
almost
fact the way she said it. The line delivery was funny.
I almost don't want it to be true, but at the same time, I love when these type of things are true. Like the Helena path would be all cryptic. This was just you're gonna die right here, and I
Yeah.
just like
Well,
oh maybe he will. Like I don't know, he might. Damn, that's how I
I'm
felt.
just saying, Bible for me, like 100% would bet my life on it after that.
Yeah. And I think I saw this girl's name online. Should I just leave that out for now and just whatever? It's not like a spoiler. It's just
No, I don't think it's a spoiler. I was curious if they would have it in the
subtitles or
captions,
something.
but I
Yeah.
didn't see it on my TV. I don't know if that's purposeful or not. I mean, she has a name. She is a character that will be a thing. So I don't really know how
Yeah,
you
I
feel
guess
about
it's
it.
not even worth talking about now. It's because it's not really relevant. Like the name doesn't mean anything that's going to change our opinion. But
Yeah.
she is very interesting. I love these type of characters. Like Melisandre was somebody I rode for in an entertaining way, not like her
Yeah.
morals and stuff from Game of Thrones. So I like these type of presence. I also just hope we get more Simon. So like, let's stick in Harrenhal for another episode. Is my goal. Is my hope for this storyline.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, he was great. He's a great actor, I thought.
Yeah.
Are we is it
Well, I
now
guess-
you want to talk about Millie? Or I don't
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think I
Yeah, let's
understood
just-
the Millie Alcock
Yeah.
of it all reference there, Kathleen. So if you want to
Oh,
take
because
it
I
away,
was
'cause that's your
skipping it.
girl. Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
felt bad
well-
that I was skipping the Millie to get to Wednesday
All right,
Adams. Or
we'll do your
whatever.
thing.
Yeah. What's your take
No.
on that? On the symbolism of that Millie appearance?
All I took from that is that one, I mean, all it is was Millie or I guess young Rhaenyra sewing up Jaehaerys, so he feels bad, right? There's guilt with Rhaenyra, there's guilt with Jaehaerys, and that's how I was seeing it. I don't really have much more to read through that. How about you?
The line she says, I didn't write down the exact quote, but she is essentially saying that I'm always stuck cleaning up your messes. So I took the messaging being, Daemon, get your shit together, which is my Luke outside like the podcast, like my hope for Daemon as a character, because he's just going the complete opposite way. I love the dude, but he's suffering in the rankings a little bit because he's just been just so chaotic. It's time to just, we know where the goal is. We're Team Black, so let's figure this shit out. But I think that's what Millie was trying to drive home. There could be more there, but it just also felt like a good way to get Millie Alcock into the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting speaking last episode. I don't know how much we got into it, just a general discussion. I feel like I remember from the internet being, is Daemon actually upset and remorseful about what happened, or is he only feeling that way because he was caught and Rhaenyra's mad about it?
Vote option 2 now. That's what
You
I
think
think. Yeah,
you
I
okay.
thought it was option 1 going into this episode, but
That
I
he was
still
just genuinely, as a human being, upset about what happened.
like he
That's
was
what you
trying to
thought.
make things right is what I thought he was doing going to Harrenhal, but now it seems like he's also has selfish motivations, just coming here just to get away from Rhaenyra, to escape whatever's bothering him, because it seems like Millie
Mhm.
popping up is like his subconscious saying like, yo, we have to deal with this and we have to start making some moves in the right direction. But I could be reading way too into it, and that's why I have you guys to bounce things off of.
Just some
Yeah.
things, I guess, to wrap us up here. Love that we get an Aegon the Conqueror and Balerion the Dread mention
Mhm.
here, just reiterating that Harrenhal is in this state of disrepair because of that. And I really liked too the way that Simon says, oh wow, Simon says, that they knew, well, how they knew that Laris did it was that there literally hasn't been a fire in this place since it got burned down initially.
Right.
So it was obviously suspicious that Laris got away with that, or rather did that stuff. And then just to call it out and mention it, that Daemon kind of comes to, and he's in the Godswood in front of the Weirwood tree. Just the old gods part of
Mhm.
Game of Thrones has always been a very interesting thing. It played a decently large role in the main series. We'll see how much they get into it here and how much maybe time they have to dedicate to it, because it's the main theme of this is obviously the civil war that's going on, while the old gods were a big part, but pretty much the main antagonist, overarching villain of the main series. And just to
Mhm.
reiterate, yeah, like Luke said, it was just really cool to see Harrenhal like this
Yeah.
again, and just like really getting the scale of the dinginess, let's say, of the castle.
Means more when we play Risk next. I'm gonna want Harrenhal.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
no, I don't. No, I don't. Not at all.
Yeah, cursed Harrenhal. So
Yeah.
kind of moving us into our green bucket here, just be starting off with the cold open, the Battle of Burning Mill. This character is Davos Blackwood, is the guy who's wearing black. And then the man with the sword is just Sir, I believe they called him Amos Bracken, is what I read.
Mhm.
So they're just arguing about boundary stones. They're team green, team black. The Blackwoods are team black. So thanks, George, for making that easy for us. We don't have to really remember that because it's in the name. And just the smash cut
Mhm.
between the little bickering to the aftermath of the battle, I thought was just a great idea. I'm just curious about what you guys were feeling in that moment.
It was well done. I just like them also giving an excuse to show generational rivalry, that
Mhm.
the Hightowers to the Targaryens are literally building up to this. And Simon said it perfectly in the last bucket, where he says to Daemon's question about why do they even go to war, and he goes, "We don't even remember at this point, or most people don't." So that's kind of what it just showed. So it was a really smart way to throw that out there at the viewers.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see, Team Black, Team Green are vying for all these different little
Mhm.
factions of people's, allyship. So it's nice to see some of them, and on a much smaller scale, Team Black versus Team Green. And
Yeah.
I love that in this universe, they will just like spend days and probably $1 million on a scene that lasts 1 minute. Like
Yeah.
the scene of everyone dead was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, next. That was just like the cold open,
Yeah.
basically. We're going on.
Yeah.
I think it's fucking awesome that they put in the effort for
Mhm.
that. And it's worth it to me. Like it packs the punch that it needs to punch. And I love that.
I'm so curious. People online had an issue with this. Book readers, let's clarify, had an issue
Okay.
with this. Even going back and reading the book, it's like 2 paragraphs it gets in Fire and Blood, which, yeah, compared to other things is like a decent amount of time. But I don't know why people were upset that we didn't get a 15-minute battle scene of the Battle of Burning Mill with just these characters who we don't know and don't
Right.
really have an affiliation with. Like you're Kathleen, like it would just be a waste of budget and time. They already spent enough to give us this 1 minute. So that just is, for me, you're just stepping out of bounds being upset about that.
It's a waste of time because it's such an important catalyst that literally goes throughout the rest of the episode. And this next scene we're going to talk about in the green bucket at the small council literally happens because of this. So I
Yeah.
don't agree with that take at all. I think it was
No.
save them money, and it was good world building. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
And it was emotionally way more effective to just see
Mhm.
that kid kind of being a kid and then seeing his head dead on the ground, and was like, oh
Mhm.
shit, okay, we're really getting after it. So yeah, that was whatever. And then the one comment I wanted to make, because I was curious, Kathleen, like you said, they don't tell you the name of the episode until after. So when I rewatched the episode and realized it was the Burning Mill, have we ever gotten an episode name so like quick into an episode? This was like the cold open, the name of the episode, and then it was just like we kind of not necessarily moved on, but I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was good.
All right. So moving into what Luke just pretty much teed us up for is going to be Cole's first council as Hand. So this just includes that moment alone that we get of him. They sent out some stills before the episode, which I was excited to see what the scene was. It was a little bit shorter than I maybe wanted, but I think it told you everything you needed to know. And then he just rolls into this council meeting a little late. Obviously, he had some important business, like Aegon says, and then they discuss their battle plans.
Mm-hmm.
He's late on his first day, motherfucker.
Yeah, he was like,
The
"Sorry,
whole
dude, I was
King's
having."
Guard.
Yeah,
They kind of
sorry.
suck now, right?
Yeah,
Aegon's boys are there. They're all being sloppy and sitting down. They're not like respectful of the cloak, so that's an issue. But I Cole handled shit. Like he even stood his ground with Alicent subtly in front of the whole group, which I did not expect. I thought he still would have been bending the knee to Alicent, but he does this twice this episode. Later, when he makes her give him her blessing in front of people. So he's really starting to step out of line. I kind of like it. The power's going to his head. I hate with a passion the hands necklace.
Really?
That might be a hot take. Yeah, I think that I hated it. I'm sorry. I absolutely hated it. But by your reaction, you liked it. So Kathleen, tiebreak.
I didn't notice it.
What? You were the
You
one that
asked.
asked what they're gonna do with the pin, and it was.
I
It was right
know.
on, it's a bunch of hands right around his neck. It's so because you obviously can't pin the pin to metal armor, so
Right.
they compromise by
It's
making
like a
this.
gold Cuban link chain, except the links are hands.
Tiebreak right now. This is live. This is live for everybody seeing. Come on.
Oh, okay. This is why I didn't notice it. That's it. The hands, like holding each other's hands.
It looks way cooler than the pin. Looks badass. Imagine him wearing it without the armor. He probably looks like a boss.
That might look better.
Yeah.
Okay, that for the record, that's why it's not like he's like wearing like a key, a magician's key around his neck. It's like it's like part of the armor.
Right. Him leaning on the chair in his opening is to show you that like close in camera angle on the necklace. So
I just look at him with such like, ugh, fucking
yes.
But no, I think it's cool. I actually like it, so I'll be the tiebreaker in the.
You dude.
Good way.
You just said you didn't like it.
I don't like him. I don't like.
You
the
asked
wearer.
too. What were they going to do with it on the armor? You can't really pin it
Mhm.
to his armor. So this was, I thought, a great
Exactly.
compromise. I wonder how fast. They didn't just have that on
No.
hand. So on hand, but they made it pretty quickly.
All right, so let me rip through some of the points here, and you guys, throw out whatever you want. But the fact that the cold opening that we just spoke about is now making its way. The news is making its way to King's Landing. They have to decide what to do. Aegon has blood in his eyes. He wants to be the rash youngin that goes to war, proves himself, take a dragon, go fuck him up at Harrenhal. Like that's pretty much what I would expect from Aegon's character. But the councilmen are obviously advising against this. Cole has this idea where he wants to send like a smaller army or a smaller garrison of troops, whatever, to stay under Dragon View and basically sneak into Harrenhal and take it back from Daemon. That's like his goal. Aemon also agrees with this, where he doesn't want the king to go himself on Sunfire, whatever. So they're basically just deciding what they're going to do about Harrenhal. I guess I'll just leave it at there because Kyle looked like you were going to correct something I said.
I was just going to say, they don't know that Daemon is in Harrenhal right now.
Oh, right. They just want it because it's the pivotal point that's been being talked about in the planning rooms for the whole season. So okay. They just want
to fill it up with their people to then use it as a kind of a rallying point to subdue the rest of the Riverlands.
Right. And while that's going on, the main three world building things that I took from this were the Tully Lord has no grasps on all of his bannermen, so he's kind of like weak for the taking. They need something to unite them. Jason Lannister's brother, or Jason Lannister, is the one rallying the army. Is it his brother that's on?
Tylan, I believe, is on the council.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason's getting the army together in the west, and then they're also mentioning Darren again with his dragon over down in Old Town, which pisses me off again because look how easy it is to write a simple line about Darren. But I'm not going to harp on that. But I just, like I say always when we have small council meetings, I love those little like plot moving pieces that are happening in the background, and this is how they give us the information.
Yeah, this was funny too because when Tylan's like going to the Grand Maester, who had you would say maybe a sensible idea of let's gather all of these groups into one army.
Mhm.
And he's like, oh, dude, let me check out which one of these chains is the military one. Dude. It's like,
What
why are you
college
being-
did you go?
Why are you being such an asshole about it? I didn't get that at all. I mean, he is just a cock. So, but
Yeah.
that made me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
I was really happy with the like passive aggressive or not so passive aggressive comments to Kristen about the Eric and Eric situation. I'm glad.
Mhm.
But what all I could think about the whole time was like, how did they get news so fast that it didn't work? Like someone just sent a raven being like, that didn't fucking work, you idiots. Send. Like
Yeah. Well, it seemed like Jace was pretty heated about it. He probably sent them a raven.
But there was also a lot of time that passed because in between the opening and now, like time passed enough for them to be made aware of the Brackens and the Blackwood. So
yeah.
you can assume a little bit of time has passed. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe like 2 days. Because it's
Right,
still
but-
been like a week almost since Viserys died.
Yeah.
Just laugh about what the note would have said. Whereas if you're over near the Black
Like-
Woods and the Brackens or whatever, you send like someone like a maester or someone sends it being like, oh, there's war here. Fuck. Like just
Mhm.
FYI. But like, what would the note be to be like, they're both dead, bro? Like,
Yeah.
It
No,
just
that's
made me
actually-
laugh thinking about it.
That is a funny point. That's actually a funny point. Okay,
Yeah.
they could be rubbing their face in it like, haha, suckers, it didn't work, but it didn't seem like they actually were doing that. I didn't catch it this way when I watched initially, and then I read it online, but Aemond telling Aegon that like we can't risk you, like all that type of stuff. I didn't really read it as like a teasing thing about his brother. Like it felt fairly sincere to me, like strategically responsible, but it seemed like some people read that as him like kind of putting Aegon down. I guess they
Oh.
probably read it that way because of the way Aegon reacts later in the episode when we get to the brothel. And just his last line here being, I'm as fearsome as any of them, because they all tell him like he can't go, but he wants to prove himself that he can go. I just thought that I don't know if I read it that way. I'm curious. It didn't seem like you guys read it that way either.
No, I actually read it as Aemon wanting to volunteer himself to go.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you got to stay here. You're too important. I thought he was going to next be like, okay, I will go with Cole. Because that's also his military boy. So I thought that was what was going to happen.
And-
but actually, it does play into him getting teased back later. But I don't think that's really connected. Like,
Yeah.
when,
I mean, it was kind of the plan that they talked about in episode 2.
Yeah.
Or episode 1. Episode 1, actually, it was. And Cole didn't really say no to it then. I guess Cole was more focused on defending Alicent against the Rhaenyra allegations, it seemed like in that scene. But yeah, Cole's vehemently against it this time. Just knows it's more likely to encounter a dragon if they bring one, which is pretty sound counsel from your hand / Lord Commander of the Kingsguard here. So not bad for Cole. This is not a bad first performance. I feel like he
Really
weathered the
not.
storm of everyone kind of coming at him a little bit at the table here. He kind of came out on top, I would say. got what
so
he
lame
wanted.
that it wasn't worse for him.
Yeah.
Him and Alicent were just bickering like lovers the
Yeah.
whole
Mhm.
episode.
Who
they couldn't
don't
even
want
hide
to
it.
let people know that they're lovers, but it's obvious to anyone with an eye for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
Otto would have been like, okay, y'all are fucking like for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I just liked Ironrod here being like, I don't think it counts. Like we're talking about the Battle of Burning Mill. Where like
Yes.
he was just like, nah, it don't count for me. But that was just made me laugh a little bit because he doesn't get many lines, but honestly, he seems to have a pretty high impact per word spoken. He always has something interesting they throw him in at the council.
Mhm.
So just want to give him a last shout out before we move into arguably the most fun group of scenes to talk about here, which is going to be Sir Criston Rides for War. So we get introduced here to Sir Gwayne Hightower, which is Alicent's brother. Guy does not like Criston Cole. He might unfortunately fit in here on the podcast with that opinion, which makes me sad. Outnumbered me too much. And we're also going to group in here this Moon Dancer scene. I think it works better here. We'll get the report we'll get Bayla's perspective on it later when we talk about the Team Black Bucket, but I think it works more as a Criston Cole scene.
Luke, give me your take on Gwayne.
I'm a little biased because there's a guy that's named Gwayne in Wheel of Time, and he sucks. But no, I really got like pretty boy cocky vibes from him right off the bat. But I actually enjoyed his initial scene because he was really only being that way because he sussed out right away that Kristen Cole has been failing upwards too easily, and he cares about his father, Otto, being kicked out to like after having been a successful Hand of the King for 3 straight kings. So I actually really enjoyed all that, but it sucks because now he's very indebted to Cole for saving his life later in this episode, and it was technically Gwayne's fault for really stepping out of line and thinking he was the shit and like getting caught in the open field. So I'm like, I'm on one hand, I want this guy to be a good character that can clash with Cole, but it seems like he got little boyed pretty easily this episode. But my initial vibe is like he just seems like a tourney boy, like a tourney knight that doesn't actually know too many things. I could be way wrong, but Kyle always says not many people know war in this day and age because of Viserys's peaceful reign. So there's that thing that there's the idea that he probably is just for show, and like Kristen Cole has been in fights. So I really think that Cole came away from this interaction by the end of the episode way on the upper hand, but I didn't not like him being introduced, and we've been talking about Alicent's brother, so I'm happy that he got a face this episode.
Yeah, I was super team Gwayne, and then of course he fucked it with Cole, and then you got to give Cole props, which I fucking hate to do. But who beat Gwayne's ass in the tourney in the first episode of the premiere?
Thank you for bringing that up, because
Yeah.
the way that they filmed that seemed like he had like wood splinters in his face for the rest of his life.
I thought he was gonna be like half faced, like like a Batman villain.
I think they just kind of wiped it and were like, maybe that wasn't best. And then just because they recasted him too. Not that you could have seen him in season 1 because he was in a full set of armor and a helmet that you couldn't see anything. But yeah, that was just odd. I don't know where the decision to do that came in, but I think it's something that I don't care about anymore. He seems like he'll be a good character moving forward. I like the new actor. He looks like a Hightower, exactly like a Hightower. And like Luke said, he has this like pretty boy, like the Reach area, all those people down there. He kind of would remind you of Loras Tyrell. So I think he fits the exact vibe that you want out of this guy. So it's a win for me. I like him.
Yeah, me too.
And I love the line, "What a giddying ascent the gods have bestowed upon you," when he talks to Kristen Cole. That just feels like something B. Toms would say if he grew up in this in this time period and in this setting. So that one definitely got a nice little giggle from me. And I think overall take on these scenes is they just did so much good, subtle, and maybe less subtle, just like world building and character advancement. And they tell us so many things. So like Luke's saying, with this feeling that no one really knows how to fight war, most of these guys, and they're all kind of cocky, arrogant dudes who don't know a ton. And then we're getting this idea that people from the Reach, like where the Hightowers are from and where the Tyrells are from in Game of Thrones, like they don't like Dornishmen. So he doesn't like Kristen Cole off the bat because this man is a Dornishman. And then we get Kristen Cole and Alicent having this interesting interaction where it's like, okay, they're like really not close anymore, it seems like. And like Luke said, where maybe even Kristen Cole is getting the better of her in these interactions, which is such an interesting way for them to leave each other while he sets out. And then even moving into the Moondancer stuff where Kristen Cole proves himself in a way where he's, you know, he has this sense of the battle. He knows what's best for this moving, for these troops and all that type of stuff. And then even the Bela of it all, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit more later. I just thought everything in these scenes worked so well.
No, we're going to talk about the Bela of it all right now. I loved Moondancer, man. The green dragon. It just looked so good. Like they still find a way to make these dragons, these CGI dragons, so uniquely different, and we're just going to keep getting more and more. Like that's why it's interesting now, because I think they talked about. Well, they didn't talk about Sea Smoke in this episode, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they did for a second, right? But how Kathleen originally thought Sea Smoke was Moondancer, it makes sense because just like the coloring of the name, but it's so cool how they just keep differentiating the dragons between each other. And I thought Moondancer looked awesome. And she has like the chains that she's using to like steer it. It was just a cool scene. She could have, you know, they did a superhero timing thing where Kristen Cole and Gwayne got to the forest just in time. Like she could have burned a few of those trees down, at least attempting, but I'll give that to just suspension of disbelief of belief for TV.
So Ryan Condal said when he gave the assignment for Moondancer, he said David Bowie, which is so funny. It's like the mohawk kind of spikes over that. But the other thing in the recent interviews with the actress who plays Bela, she said they shot 3 different scenes there. One being exactly what we saw, 2 being one that she just kind of like stays high, I think, and doesn't go down at all. And the second one being like she misses, like she attempts and misses them, like just misses them, like spits fire and misses.
That's
Um,
kind of what I would have preferred, but it's fine.
No, I kind of liked because what I liked about it was Rhaenyra later says like I told you not to engage, and I like that she was like, well,
Yeah.
No, that's actually
She's
true.
Daemon's daughter, man. She's gonna fucking she's gonna do what
Yeah.
she wants.
There is a little bit of blue balling going on too, for lack of a better phrase, let's say, of no one wants to be the person that like makes the move. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think Bela feels like she's in a position to make the
Yeah.
move. Like the Brackens and the Blackwoods have been chomping at the bit for 800 years to have a battle of Burning Mill. So like they don't really count. But these people that are involved, and you know, she's Rhaenys' granddaughter, and Rhaenys, for the most part, not necessarily raised her, but has a big role of her more formative years, let's say. So she seems to be Rhaenys' granddaughter more than
Love
anything
it.
else. Yeah.
Which is a
Which is
huge
great.
compliment and a great
Yeah.
thing to be.
Yeah, which is great. And just to wrap this up, I like Cole's line of them saying they're going to move like within the trees and under the cover of dark. Don't know how much we'll actually see of that, how much they'll drag out this march to places, but I'm just interested to see more. I saw a little bit of the preview for the next episode, which implies that it might not be a ton, but I just like Cole being this kind of military mind.
You would.
Yeah, I kind of like it. And he's got this Caesar cut, dude. The new haircut. He's got this Caesar cut.
Ugh,
I
ugly.
messed with it. He popped right out of Gladiator too.
He could have had any haircut and you would have messed with it. Don't give me that shit. You always like longer hair. Don't you freaking turn on your brand right
Oh,
now.
that's why I'm giving him a compliment. I like the shorter hair.
Whatever.
Shocking to me. It's shocking to me. So, all right, very quick scene here is going to be Alicent and Helaena speaking about grief. Very interesting. I wasn't entirely sure what to come away with it. I'll just start this by asking to, we'll start at the end, let's say. And what did Helaena forgive Alicent for?
Luke, I'll let you go.
Dude, Helaena makes me just feel so bad about my podcasting skills. Like, I know nothing about what's going on in this girl's head, but I assumed it was the Kristen Cole scene, or
Yeah.
is it just the lack of being like a true mother that cares past just the surface level? Because Alicent has always been a little weird with her kids. She's been worse in recent episodes, so maybe it's that, but that's where I'm at. Like, that's the extent of what I can predict about Helaena, because she seems all over the place.
That's exactly how I took it as well. I mean, but you never know with Helaena what it is, but one, because she never explains. Quite literally never.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's how I took it. And I don't think Alicent, I think that's how Alicent took it. And of course, because Alicent's been like living through this guilt, and I don't know that Alicent would even want to crack it open even further. I think she would just be like,
Right, not explore
okay.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
All right, girl.
here's a little tinfoil hat for you. What if it was another dreaming sequence and she's saying, I forgive you for killing me in the future, or something like crazy like that? Like, that would be wild, right?
Yeah. I would
I-
love.
Highly doubt that that's even in the realm of possibilities, because how would that end up? But it must be either the Kristen Cole or the motherhood thing. I don't know. Kyle?
Yeah. I think it's the Kristen Cole thing. Because it seemed like Alicent was gonna bring it up again, and
Mhm.
Helaena kind of just shut her down. And Helena's not stupid. I think she realizes what happened and how Alicent feels about it. I think this is just Helena's way to kind of sweep it under the rug a little bit and just, I forgive you. We don't really need to talk about it. And I wonder, I was gonna be interested in how Alicent, like how that was gonna carry Alicent for the rest of the episode, but really the next time we see her is going to be the Rhaenyra scene, so it doesn't have the impact that I thought it might have had, but just her feeling that weight maybe lifted, because she's been trying to confess her sins to people and no one really has listened. She hasn't been able to get it out, and then she'll just have her daughter say, I forgive you. I was really curious if they would explore how that made her feel. We didn't get there. Maybe we'll get there in the future, but who can say?
I was just going to say, Rhaenyra didn't give her much time, because if she stopped feeling guilty about that, she sure as hell going to start feeling guilty about starting this entire
guilt has
war.
just started.
That's true. And maybe it's Helaena being like, I forgive you for making me have to be queen and do all this stuff I don't want to do.
True.
Yeah. Because the conversation I had right before this, which we can just talk about briefly because maybe there's a little less in it, just one point I want to make is, especially given what we're saying about Helaena and how a lot of things that she says can be taken in a million different ways, potentially, she was very matter of fact about her feelings right here, and all, like, almost logical to a fault. Like, she's using such supreme logic to interpret her feelings of just babies die all the time. I don't need to be sad. The small folk babies die more than mine will. They must hate me. Like, just like pure robotic logic based on it, which I just thought it was interesting based off of all the other scenes we've seen from her.
I thought it was very Helaena to be like that. She's
Yeah.
she's like the most self-aware of everybody.
Yeah, I don't
And
think anyone else in that family would think like that, or at least not her brothers.
her just opening, being like, "I'm sad about Jaehaerys." I was like, "Fuck,
Yeah, so am I.
that's
dude.
my girl." I love Helaena.
Yeah,
Big fan.
yeah. And Alicent even says, "I'm sad about Harris, but I'm more upset about you." And then
Yeah.
they move it to whatever. So, all right. This next scene, I'm going to talk about the exact opposite of Helaena, is going to be Aegon the Conqueror is reborn in front of our eyes here. So we have the new members of the Kingsguard just gassing up Aegon the second. He's got the crown, he's got the sword, so he might as well have the armor. And then we have a really interesting Larys the Clubfoot part in this scene. I think we talk about this before we get into the brothel drinking night out. Just curious, because this was, I think, a very interesting individual character exploration of Aegon in this scene.
And I thought that this was like a turning point because he could have used this moment to really lay down the law and establish like professionalism with the Kingsguard, which he should care about because that's like his bodyguards.
Yeah.
But instead, he has that moment where he looks himself in the mirror, and I'm assuming like some internal dialogue happens where he says, like, this isn't me. Like, I need to go back to my true self, which is this just, you know, non-kingly just goofball that just has fun with his friends. Because the next time we see him is in the tavern. It's so sad that he reverted, because not that I'm still not enjoying the performance, because this is still he's still Tom, right, is one of the highlight actors of season, standout actors of the season. It's just as a character, I can, like I said at the beginning, I can no longer as openly support Team Green as I was kind of saying I could have last episode, specifically because of things with Aegon and Alicent. So I really didn't like what's going on here. But what I did really like was, and I always bring this up, like the small council is my shit. So like when you're going to assign a new title, and I'm always talking about Master of Whispers, that was such a cool moment for me, because I'm under the impression that this appointed Master of Whispers is what directly leads to a continued Master of Whispers all the way up to Varys, because it's been gone, and they go on to, Aegon goes on to say, my father saw no need for the conceit and the lies of having a Master of Whispers, and Larys fits in perfectly there. And if Larys wasn't going to be your hand from last episode, this makes total sense. And now it seems like Larys is almost kind of casting his feet obsession and love for Alicent out to now take on this new power role, because it seemed like he was going behind Alicent's back a little bit, where he was advising Aegon to not leave so that Alicent didn't get too much power, because that's what the rumor was. So I thought this was like a very big turning point for Aegon's character, and then in a bad way, and then Larys for trying to now take on his own power and just keep going up the ladder.
When you brought up the foot fetish right there, I was trying to remember if Aegon's feet were out in this scene, and I was like, where's he going with that? No, you're good. I understood it. I just was like, I don't remember his feet being out at all.
Is it not the first time he's been kind of openly against Alicent on screen?
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to have really an allegiance to anyone in particular. Maybe it's just those who he perceives has the power. I don't remember the exact line from Game of Thrones, but yeah, power is perception. It's whoever has power is who people think have power, and he thinks that people listen to Aegon, so he's trying to get in there. I guess
every episode he's becoming more like Littlefinger, and I don't hate it.
Yeah, he was my MVP pick for the season, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a new hairdo as well, a little pushback action. It's not so like scraggly in his face. It's
I stapled Cole's hair.
I wonder if they have the same barber. Who's cutting their hair?
They reuse hair in Westeros, I guarantee it.
That's true. There's probably a lot of uses for it. So, Aline, I don't know if you wanted to add anything before we kind of wrapped it up, but
no, Larys is just so good at like knowing how to influence people and understanding people and what gets what he wants, and then what will affect the other person in the way he wants. It's just so fun to watch, and I didn't even hate this. Like,
Yeah.
Why was Aegon going anyway? They're like, don't go. And he's like, oh, I'm suiting up. Like, we're fucking going. It's like, bro, they said don't go. Why are you suiting
Mhm.
up? So stupid.
I thought
So
that was like a very human moment from him. I think that they're really exploring this flaw in his character that he wants to be perceived
Mhm.
as a good king, as like a good, maybe not a good guy, but like that people like and think highly of. We talked about it maybe episode 1, episode 2 of that impact from Viserys not really giving a shit about him because he wasn't the heir and that stuff and how that's impacted him. And my note here was just like it felt like a very real
Yeah.
scene where he's like when he even says, I have the crown, I have the sword, I might as well have the armor and ride a dragon into battle. Like they named Aegon, like I should be like Aegon. And like
Mhm.
Luke's saying that he kind of maybe realizes at the end here when he looks in the mirror, it's like that's not actually me.
It's like imposter syndrome, yeah, and he's like reverting back to what his core character is, which unfortunately is like a little wimp.
Yeah, it just is a complete jackass. And I loved Laris throwing the jab in there with the Alicent thing of including Aemond when he
Mhm.
says, reigning in your stead alongside Aemond.
Mhm.
And that was just like a perfect. It almost feels like Laris is anti-Team Green, like he's working on the inside to just foam chaos around. And I don't really know what his end goal is because that
Yeah.
just definitely rubbed Aegon the wrong way and put Aemond in his mind the wrong way, which we'll explore in this next group of scenes. Will just be this is Ulf the White. He meets Aegon the Conqueror, and then we meet Aemon's peace. That's what I have.
I believe Ulf.
Yeah, you
We'll
do.
I
start
would have
with Ulf.
preferred.
What?
Sorry, you said Aemon's peace. Is that what you said?
Mhm, yeah.
I would have so preferred you just say his baby monk right there. That would have been fucking money.
Oh, I didn't think about
It was
that.
right
I didn't
there
think
for
about
you.
that. All right, well,
But
maybe
we're
you
just
should
talking
be the
about all
episode
this
singer.
because
Yeah.
this was something that I have zero spoilers about, so I'm just throwing it out there. Like I know that people were excited about Ulf, ULF.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ULF.
I saw conversations online, like people were very excited. Spoiler free, so I know nothing, but it seems like he's gonna play either a big part or the idea of him is gonna play a big part where there are other Targaryens or something. Or maybe it's just him. I don't really know. I didn't believe him at first, but it seems like it's a thing. Like he is the bastard brother of Daemon, which makes him the grandson of King Jaehaerys, like the bastard grandson of King Jaehaerys, whatever.
Mhm.
Very important. Like there would be bastards all over the place. These kings were out here banging. So it's like, why would there not be more random Targaryens? He seems like he's going to play a really key part, but lost all respect for him when he's saying that Rhaenyra is my true queen. And then Aegon walks in, and he goes, "Oh, hail the king." And he's just like,
Well,
What
like,
else
yeah,
is he
save
supposed
his
to do?
life.
yeah, but he didn't
Yeah.
have to be the one to just like throw his hat in the ring as like, I'm the leader of like Team Green. Let's go, baby. That was just a pussy moment for
Well,
me.
he's a huge fucking goofball. Like you saw him
Yeah.
like romping around the bar and then just sitting around with seemingly strangers being like, "You want to want me to tell a tale? Because I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
one."
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like, "Give me a
Everyone
beer,
knows him.
I whistle, and I will tell a story."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
they
guy buys him a
definitely
beer.
they made it a point to show that he's a very popular person
Yeah.
in this, especially this specific bar. Thought it was interesting that he says that he's the bastard son of Balon the Brave, which is Viserys and Daemon's father. Just interesting because in the established lore, let's say, and like we've mentioned a million times, Fire and Blood is a history book written by someone with a perspective and agenda, but it just mentions that Balon's when Daemon and Viserys' wife, when when Viserys and Daemon's mother dies, their dad's still alive, and he like famously was like completely chaste after that, like never was involved with anyone else. His little sister tried to seduce him. He was like, "Get out of here." So that this was just an interesting thing that they added in here. I'm very curious to if they explore more of that. But yeah,
He seems
and
older
also
though. So
He
like
seems
is
older
Ulf
than
to work.
Damon.
is
Yeah.
Ulf just lying? And is he just picking a dead Targaryen? He's like, yeah, that's my dad, and the ages work out well enough. So like
It
you know,
could.
so
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how much they explore that type of stuff. And he's Team Black, like you mentioned, which again is an
Mhm.
interesting thing that there are Team Black people within King's Landing. Is it just him because he thinks Daemon's his brother? So
Yeah.
Rhaenyra is his sister-in-law.
Yeah,
So
probably.
I guess or also what niece-in-law. But I loved when just the way that Aegon enters this scene, hanging out with the boys, we realize the decision that he's made. And then the brothel, geez, did not expect this at all. And I think that a lot of people who were making memes about Aemon's body, let's say, last episode, I feel like he got the last laugh in this episode. I think him standing up like that was just like, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I was like, good for you, bro. Good for you.
Dude.
Show it off,
It's
dude.
got to be a prosthetic. Like
Why?
they don't do penises like with the main actors. They hardly ever show the actor's real.
You don't know
penis,
Baby
which is a
Monk.
shame.
Oh, man.
You don't know Baby Monk.
I would love if it was real, and I'm just happy that they're not
Oh,
cowards in
man.
general. But like Euphoria, all that, like
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that blowjob that they showed, that was a fake penis.
oh, they would never show someone blowing a real penis.
It was so
Yeah.
obviously not a real penis. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Agreed.
were watching in Asia. Was like, what? Why do they need to put that in there? Like, we don't need to see that. We know they're in a brothel.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Realism,
All right, but
baby.
let's take it to the main piece here where Aegon embarrasses Aemon as he's with his the mistress or whatever that he always like meets
Mhm.
with. I thought this was such a mistake for Aegon. Like this was such a slight that Aemon might actually react next episode. I know there's like bickering between brothers, but my God, man, you're really poking the bear when he's like calling him my dog. Look, you gonna bark or whatever? Like all these things he's going way over the top for. And then I don't know what Aegon's end game is. Maybe he thinks Aemon doesn't have it in him to retaliate, but that look in his eye when he's walking away, like I'm done here, a whore's a whore. I thought he had blood in his eyes, but he's not going to kill the king. So something crazy could happen. And this could be the out that he's looking for to kill the king if he's going to do that, because Aegon's reverting. He's not being kingly. He's not representing the Hightowers / the Targaryens well. So like this could be the chance that he does it. But again, is he really going to go that far and be full evil? I don't know if he has that in him.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting. I just love this. It's not something that I really anticipated, but I love this exploration of Aemon's character. And especially like you're saying, the way it's contrasted or compared to Aegon in this scene. Aegon's like, dude, you like this woman that you had sex with? That's crazy. Like when you were a young teenager that I forced you to do this. Like Aegon is just an obvious, just complete asshole in this, and he's just a drunken fool. But yeah, that walk away was like, okay,
Fierce.
let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens now. Let's
Mhm.
see what happens now. I can't imagine Aemon, unless it's really required, like taking an order from Aegon, even independent of this scene. But even now, just I can't wait to see the next time he looks at him with that eye. Just
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Literally, he literally killed Luke because of taunting him in this fashion.
Literally.
Now he's gonna like Kathleen, where do you see this going? Is this gonna be action on Aemon's side, or is this
I
just
mean-
more resentment building that's gonna play out even later?
He killed Luke and got nothing out of it. He could kill Aegon and get the crown for this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like big crowns to win because of this one. But yeah, he's a fucking dick. But I think me and you, Luke, both guessed that Aemon will end up on the throne at some point. I said end game. You said end of season 2. Like he's just like Aegon losing his breath away from, getting the throne. So Aegon being a fucking dick to the second brother who famously always wants to be the king is so stupid. And everyone knows he's like their best sword and has Vhagar. So it's like, maybe don't piss him off. And he's scary. He's so
It
scary.
would be
Scary.
good for the Bingetown brand if he did end up on the throne this season, though, for me and you at least.
Yeah, agreed.
That's true. That's true. Because Aegon's ruling skills are under quite the microscope, let's say, at this point. So now we'll move into our black bucket, which is just going to start off with the Cargill twins being buried here. And like I mentioned earlier, Jace is really upset. But the main part of this is the conversation that Rhaenys and Rhaenyra have here, where Rhaenys is trying to convince Rhaenyra that there is another way, which I'm just interested in what you guys took, or what, not even what took from it, but what you guys thought about Rhaenys doing this.
Rhaenys needs to be her hand, like her legit hand. She needs to wear the pin and be Rhaenyra's hand because she doesn't have one and she needs one. And I think Rhaenys is constantly spitting incredible wisdom. And I think her saying the part of, Rhaenyra's being like, Alicent let that happen. And she's like, yeah, just like you let Jaehaerys's head fall off. And then it's like, oh, mic drop. Like sometimes you have to be like explained in very basic terms. Like, think this through. And I think Rhaenys is the one that's like guiding Rhaenyra. And I think we can all agree, like, I mean, for me, I think Rhaenyra is taking all the right steps, right? I mean, she's being very selfless, especially putting herself out there to go over there, put herself in such danger to be like, what if we can like make this not a war? Like, what do we do to not shed any more blood than we already did? I don't want to skip all the way to the end, but I think Rhaenys is incredible and an incredible guide and should be her hand.
You
Luke.
took every single note I had written down and just put it perfectly. I'll take it a step further. Rhaenys should be the queen. Fuck Rhaenyra. Like, it should 100% be
Yes.
Rhaenys. It's amazing to see too in all the small council room scenes in Dragonstone. It almost looks like Rhaenyra's looking for her validation because she's like taking all these men who are trying to control her, hide her away, or tell her what to do with her dragons, and she puts her foot down, and then she looks at Rhaenys, and it almost feels reassured that Rhaenys is giving her validation in a way. Is how I was taking a bunch of these scenes between the two. But you nailed everything. I don't even need to say anything else. Rhaenys for president, man. She is. I'm so happy that she's been consistently in my top 5 favorite characters of this show since like the beginning.
I like that she is able to deduce that Otto didn't have a role in the plan. She knows that while she might think he's like a rat or whatever her interpretations of him are, that he wouldn't do this. So they know that there's young blood, revenge fueled blood going on that side. If I'm honest, maybe this is like part 1 or like a slight like warm up to my hot take. This feels a little naive though. Rhaenys is more than aware of the fact that people don't really listen to the women at this level. I'm not sure what type of power she thinks Alicent wields in the Red Keep. She might not know. She knows that Alicent, has this mindset that she doesn't want war, but she is watching Rhaenyra struggle within her own council when she is the queen against people that want war. I don't know what she thinks Alicent can conceivably do.
My only devil's advocate comment there, and I don't even know how much I believe this, but it's kind of off of what you just said. She respects Otto and doesn't think he was involved. So if it wasn't Otto, where's it coming from? It's not Aegon. So I think maybe it just by default, she thinks the power lies with Alicent if it's not coming from Otto. So, but that's my only.
I mean,
But if
last
she
time
thinks that,
Rhaenys,
then that's her thinking that Alicent is who sent the guys here.
I think my devil's advocate is the last time Rhaenys was there, she was being held hostage basically in her room by Alicent, who was like marionetting, pulling the strings of usurping the throne. So I think that by the last time Rhaenys left, Alicent did have all the power, really. She has since lost it completely because the boys are running the show now. This whole scene was fabulous with her explaining like this, like the young blood, they're just like ready for battle. Like these young guys, like no one even is gonna fucking remember why we're fighting, just like the Brackens and the Blackwoods. Like that's the theme, like sin begets sin begets sin begets sin. Like that's the theme of this entire episode. It's like it's all just it's too late. It's just gonna be
it just
terrible.
seemed like she got like 9/10 of it, but didn't get the 10th being that Alicent isn't in charge. Like she understands that this plan was rash and that someone is in charge over there that has young hot blood, but then wants Rhaenyra to talk to a woman where she is assuming doesn't have power anymore, or at least as much power as she thought she had when she left, type of deal. I don't know. Maybe we can explore that more later on. My final comment on this would be that dude filling that grave was struggling. I don't know if he was nervous because of the conversation that was happening in front of him about literally the fate of the universe, and that was some rocky ground, but he was struggling to get them shovels into that hole. I felt bad for him. I mean, never had more pressure in his life, I'm sure. All right. Really don't know how much we want to talk about this scene, Rhaenyra and Mysaria, very quickly. Doesn't necessarily fit so well into the other one, but this is just confirmation that it's sea smoke that we talked about last episode that's flying in the air. I just miss Arya saying I'll work for Rhaenyra because she thinks that Rhaenyra is more likely to have the best interest of the small folk in mind.
Mm-hmm. Good with that.
I'm
Cool.
good with that as well.
All right, so this is going to be some scenes that are kind of Frankenstein together, copied and pasted, but this is just, so the two scenes we have where Rhaenyra is sending Joffrey, Aegon, Viserys, and Rhaena away. The first one being when she puts the plan to Rhaena, which might get swallowed up essentially by just talking about the send-off itself, because the send-off is the more emotional scene.
Yeah, it's really sad. And I feel bad for Rhaena in general because she's always just wanting a dragon, right? She's wanting to be in the game and she's always benched. Question for you. So if it's in canon House of the Dragon season 2 universe that the 3 eggs are Khaleesi's eggs, could the 4th egg be Rhaena's? Like, was that 4th egg for the youngest son, Viserys or Aegon? I can't remember, Aegon the small or whatever.
So,
or is it whoever it bonds to? Like, what's the rules there?
I don't know if there is many rules. Could Rhaena sleep with one of those eggs and take it on her own when she's in Pentos, when there's really no one that can say anything to her? That's probably more than a reality. I think the fact that they've made it canon, at least in the show, that these are Dany's eggs is, I understand the connection to like the line of Rhaenyra saying, you know, whatever she ends up saying about the future, like, you know, you're going to ensure the hope of our future should all come to ruin, and we're supposed to, you know, take from that she does somewhat succeed, and that these eggs, through whatever twisted means, get to Daenerys later on, and then revive the dragons and House Targaryen along with it. Although we know how that ends with Daenerys, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's just a weird thing for me personally. I understand why they did it, but we'll see what happens with Rhaena and that 4th egg, because we do know at this point that the other 3 are spoken for, like you said.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it. It's like there was potential, and now there's no potential for those eggs.
Yeah.
And I assume we like those babies are just like, we won't see those babies for a really long time or ever kind of deal. You know?
Yeah, and I guess now that we're thinking about it, that 4th egg could either be Rhaena or
The
Viserys.
babies.
Because they don't mention, because Tyraxis is Aegon the Younger's dragon.
Okay.
And Stormcloud is Joffrey's dragon. So,
and we're just talking about the whole goodbye scene in general. What else can Rhaena expect though? Like, she's not like a fighter. She doesn't have the power of a dragon. I think this is almost a best case scenario for her to add value to Team Black. I get that it seems a little demeaning, but it's the safest route. I think that she should be like eventually be okay with this down the line, like as she gets older. So unless she does get a dragon, like this is her best route. Like I don't see an alternative, because Bela is the one with Moondancer, and if Bela didn't have Moondancer, she'd be right there with her. So it's not like this is specifically against Rhaena. It's just the reality of the situation. So
yeah, it just kind of feels like being a teenager.
Yeah, definitely.
She wants a big role. Can't really have one.
Talking to her like an adult though throughout the whole episode. So I'll give her that. But
I mean,
Rhaenyra's a good plan.
Yeah, the queen saying to you, "I need you to be the mother to them that I cannot." That feels like that should be like a big honor.
I just think it was a miss that she didn't at least attempt to get Sea Smoke and bond with Sea Smoke. Caesar's like, restless, baby, go get him.
Someone has to.
Someone's going to.
Yeah.
Maybe she's not bold enough.
That's true.
Maybe she's not bold enough. All right. So we now have this Black Council meeting, and these guys want to act. The men in the room want to be decisive. They even, this line, they want to turn green strongholds to our cause and burn those that resist. And Rhaenyra's just really not having it. And this council, and sorry to steep over you, but just to let you know, this council scene ends with the Rhaenys comment about Jaehaerys, which was pretty fire.
I don't think they were giving bad counsel here. Like this is directly after getting, or this is before the Bela information. Sorry. So never mind. This is not where they're giving good counsel, because they are trying to be rash here. The next scene, I actually will defend some of these guys, but yeah, this is a demeaning scene. They just want to hide her away, which is ridiculous, but I don't have much to add there, but are we also going to kind of weave in? Let's just take it through both of them, like this and the next council scene.
Yeah.
Like we can weave in the Corlys and the Rhaenys talk that happens in between as well. Because once Bela does return, that's when I actually am in agreement. Like, let's go attack. We know they're in between Harrenhal, King's Landing. They don't have the whole army. Like, this is when they're going to be the most vulnerable, and killing the Lord Commander of the King's Guard and the Hand of the King in one fell swoop. Like, that just seems like a win all around. I get that Rhaenyra is known for being patient, or I guess she's trying to be known for being patient and wise and not kill as many people. But this was a missed opportunity. They should have just probably went to action there. I know I just jumped through the whole first one, but if there's anything else, you guys feel free to loop it in.
I'm curious how much you guys are thinking about or taking away with Rhaenyra's what's the word I'm even looking for? Her
Like
kind of being patient hesitation
Yeah.
to Daemon last episode being like, is she just truly Viserys's daughter? Is she going to just sit on her hands to a point where she's the queen? She has the power to make decisions. And is she just going to wait around to the point where like people are going to do things that make her act versus her acting and making people do things for her? And I think that that was a very interesting theme for Rhaenyra throughout this episode, that I just kept thinking about the scene that she has with Daemon last episode when he says that to her. Because while he was in the wrong with a lot of things they said, he was not wrong about that. She is acting very Viserys-like and is very, it seems, afraid of the power that she has.
It's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
See, I'm still, nothing has happened yet, and I get being proactive versus reactive, but there is a fine line. Being too proactive could make things worse, but being too reactive, obviously you're on your heels. That's fucked too. It's a fine line. And I think this is Rhaenyra's first time and she's still figuring it out, but I think she'll act soon. I think after this episode where it's like, oh, this shit's going down, like we're it's going down basement, like we're fucking going. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same thought after the finale shot of Rhaenyra like being destroyed and mad and pissed and sad, like in the closing of season 1, and then it kind of just took a step back, and it feels like we keep getting to the point where we're going to get to action and then she takes a step back, which is a sign of a great ruler. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're past the point of let's toe that line. I honestly am on team like it's time to do some action, because they're going to go take and secure Harrenhal, and they're going to have the Riverlands, and they're going to get the Tullys. Like, they already lost the Baratheons. Like, things need to happen. We can't just wait until the Greens are so in such an advantage that we're going to attack now and try and just be the ethical good guys when you're missing out on all your advantages now.
Yeah. Can I do my hot take, if I can take us a little bit further into the episode?
Okay.
And just talk about the Rhaenys and Corlys scene. I feel like this is not going to be a hot take once I say it, which is we're sleeping on Corlys here. Like, Corlys is a great character and we're barely getting anything from him in the first 3 episodes. I just assume that means we're going to get a lot moving forward. Once we're in the war, once he's like rocking as Lord of the Tides, I guess we'll see him. But one, I didn't really love him. He kind of just like blows Rhaenys off. And it's like, again, it's that like man versus woman, or like little baby boy versus little baby girl in this situation. But it makes sense to give it to Rhaena. You know, like, that is actually your blood. That's your granddaughter. Like, Joffrey's 6 years old. Like, you probably have a little bit more hope with Rhaena than Joffrey, possibly. But I didn't love that. So I just want more out of Corlys, and I want the Corlys that like absolutely rides for Rhaenys and like is like team Rhaenyra and doesn't care about like gender or whatever, and is badass. I'm waiting for that Corlys.
Yeah, it seems that when it comes to his own, let's say, life lineage, he's much more sensitive to things. With the Rhaenyra and the crown and that type of stuff. And we know that he was accepting of Luke becoming the Lord of the Tides, even though that they knew that they weren't actually Laenor's kids. And it just seems like now in this situation, he's really sensitive about who is going to be his heir, especially after that near-death experience that he had. In this scene, I took it that he was implying that he wants to have a baby.
I, for a second, thought that same thing, but that can't be the truth.
I mean, he says to her, I'm no longer an invalid. Like, he's saying that, like, well, maybe we don't need to decide between the two of them. We'll see what the future holds for us. I thought that was him implying that that he wants to have like another
Is
child.
that even
I-
realistic?
Completely missed that. I thought it was Corlys being like, "Good thing I'm fucking Rock on the boat, dude. Like
Oh,
I'm
that's
never
fair.
dying." Like I
Yeah.
took it as he's like, "I am invincible, baby. I'm not an invalid. I can fuck. I can do all
Cool.
this stuff. Let's go."
Yeah. Yeah, I that's actually a good point. I guess the invalid comment for me was like, because we've seen them laying in the bed, and that's
Yeah.
all
She
we've
was like,
seen them
wasn't
do.
she bringing him bread or something? Maybe that was it was more that like you don't need to like take care of me like
Coddle me, yeah, because
Yes,
she's like, "I got
exactly.
you broth as well," and he's like, "I'm not an
Okay.
invalid,
It's
bitch."
like biologically the Westeros rules aren't that
Oh, yeah.
different. Like you can't have a kid. Like Rhaenys cannot have a
Yeah.
kid.
I
Yeah.
think, how much do they know about that?
True.
I
And
mean,
Corlys,
you
we
would
know,
think
is
that
ambitious, where
nobody
he's like, let's
Yeah,
make an
It's
heir. Let's make a real heir.
yeah.
Yeah,
True.
we'll see
Alright.
though. We'll see. And yeah, there's really nothing to add for me about the Corlys stuff. The first council scene, the second council scene. I don't think I got anything here. Although she really is. She leaves them, Rhaenyra. The last council interaction she has here is just her saying, "I'll consider your arguments." Seems like they're going to get to a point. They're already at a point where they're sick of hearing that line. It doesn't seem like it's the first time they've heard that line from her. So I don't think
That's
they're
the
very
first time I
happy
was
about that.
frustrated with her too. Like it's we're at that point where it's just new. So hopefully she doesn't keep up this pace of the war like going forward. I hope she starts doing some action now.
And I mean, talk about action. This is pretty much action here. So this is Rhaenyra's
Mhm.
plan, being her reading the letter from Alicent finally, where we know that it's in the little box where she was keeping some of her son's toys, which was kind of cute or sad, whichever way you want to take that. She speaks with Missaria very quickly about Alicent and the logistics of something like this. And then it's just Mission Impossible King's Landing. I did not think this was the angle they were going here. This is pretty crazy. I did not expect this at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, because this isn't in the book, right? Like the whole prophecy bullshit isn't like spoken about in this.
Yeah, no. And
Right.
Rhaenyra and Alicent aren't friends at all. They don't
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
type of sexual tension, will they, won't they type of relationship. So there's nothing like this that could have happened.
And it's funny because, they're on obviously every poster. They do all their interviews together. Like this show hinges on the two of these chemistry, really. We don't really get that many scenes post them being kids when they're actually together in a room and not just like bitching about each other separately and talking shit on each other. So it's crazy how, important these scenes are when it wasn't in the book to the show. But man, was this fucking electric or
Yep.
what? It's just
Mhm.
crazy to see, like, so many years later, like the love and respect they kind of have for each other. Like they can look each other in the eye and be like, "I'm not lying," and the other one being like, you could see Rhaenyra's face change when Alicent says he changed his mind for like the second or third time, and
Mhm.
Rhaenyra was like, "Fuck!" Like, well, what did he
Yeah.
say? She was like,
Mhm.
Emma, they were incredible in this scene. Like the face changes were so fucking good. And I was just in awe of both of them. I thought this was really, really one of my favorite scenes of the show for sure.
Definitely. And it was so compelling because just like you said, both their characters in character are telling a truth that they know to their core is true. Yet Alicent is just she's missing some important information. And as soon as she says the prince that was promised, the chills that ran through my body at Rhaenyra's reaction to that was insane. I did not think we were getting this conversation, even when I knew they were going to meet up. I didn't think they were going to talk this out and figure out why she decided to name Aegon the actual heir. It was crazy. I could not have imagined at the beginning of the season how this conversation would go down and come out this way. But this is where my goodwill for Alicent went. I am officially just dropping the team green percentage through the fucking floor now, because if Alicent now knows the truth, like that was the benefit of the doubt that I was giving her. And now she's going to have to react to this. And it's too, like she says, it's too far gone. It's too late. We can't revert the changes that already happened. So now I can't ethically root for Alicent in any way because she knows the truth and not just what she was thought to be the case with Viserys naming Aegon the heir. So that part is really sad, but it was such a pivotal scene. We're going to look back at the end, like their next confrontation, like it might not even be until the very end. Like this was such an important scene. I love seeing it. The chemistry, man, off the charts.
It is. It's crazy because Alicent said the one thing that would make both of them
Figure it out.
realize, because
Yeah.
Alicent only could have said the one thing, because Viserys didn't say much. She said Aegon, she said Prince that was promised. Then Rhaenyra could say the Song of Ice and Fire, and both of the lights clicked. But if Alicent had said all of that, then Rhaenyra couldn't have been like, no, that's a story Viserys told. Like, the way it was done was masterful. But
yeah.
Kai, I'm interested in how you feel about Alicent, because I don't necessarily agree with Luke that this like trashed Alicent for me. I just think this is going to add more layers to Alicent and make her a more interesting character. But this didn't make me necessarily be like, oh, my goodwill with Alicent is gone, because again, she still didn't know when it happened. I think.
Yeah, but
it's
now that
pretty
she does,
obvious
she's not going
that-
to do anything about it.
I know, but what can she do? I think that's the point. What can she do? The ball is rolling.
Fuck the fam.
Yeah,
Tell the truth.
I think that this is officially the shattering of the facade. I think she was lying to herself subconsciously a little bit about the reason why Aegon is currently king, and her rolling it. I was a thing in season 1 and beginning of this season where she didn't realize that everyone around her was planning to make Aegon king, and that she kind of came in to the room after Viserys died with this like, oh my god, like Viserys made him heir, and everyone was like, funny story, bro. Like, no one actually believed her. Well, she was still kind of believing moving forward. You can't do that anymore. Maybe she turns to thinking that Rhaenyra is a liar, and it really sours their relationship completely, and she's trying to gaslight herself into believing that Rhaenyra was lying here. I could see that maybe being an angle for it, but this is kind of the end of her having any semblance of like what she was doing was right. The only thing it seems like she could hold on to is like she's just protecting her children. And she doesn't seem to like her children a ton anymore.
She really
so
doesn't.
it's going to be really interesting what the fallout is for her character. So I would agree with Lean in the sense that I think it adds layers to her. It makes her, I'm very interested what her next steps are after this.
And I'm not implying that she should now like try and have Aegon removed from the king and think that it has any shot at being successful. But the way she talks about this, like you're saying, like what's her mindset going forward? I'm just assuming that I can no longer support Alicent anymore unless she is like, fuck, like I messed up and tries to talk to people and just fails. Because in that way, then it's where I'm good. I'm all good with Alicent, but I don't think she's going to, that would just make her a pawn and irrelevant and boring. So that won't happen.
Her convincing people or her being like, I fucked up, is like everyone knows that she fucked up. It fucked up, the sense being that she thinks that Viserys actually made Aegon the heir. Like no one else is on that team.
That's true. But I always supported her because it was her truth because she didn't know better.
Yeah.
And now I can't subtly from the shadows support Team Green anymore.
Yeah. That's true. My hot take, and I'm glad in the sense that it's hot, but it's going to be interesting. I don't think I really liked this scene that much. I think that it was hard for me not to see this as like them do like I don't know the right way to say this, but like this is so obviously just contrived to get these two actors in a scene together. Like the amount of steps that had to be taken for this scene to happen is all just like pure plot contrivance.
TV.
Yeah. Like, and again, you write things for your story to tell stories, to show us themes, to give us interactions, to entertain. So I think on a pure entertainment level, this was wonderful. I really liked it. It was like shocked at Rhaenyra walking through the streets of King's Landing in this septa outfit. But even Alicent kind of says to her at the start when Rhaenyra like pulls the knife, and then she's like, what if I scream? And Rhaenyra's like, well, then your guards kill me, but not before I kill you. And then Alicent's like, and then what? And Rhaenyra's like, I have literally no end game past that. Like that is, Rhaenyra would literally piss away everything doing that. And not that would happen, but that was just like another thing of like, maybe that's the writers being like, wink, wink, Rhaenyra is blinded by this quest to not shed blood, and she really wants this olive branch with Alicent. But that, for me, when I watched it too the second time, was just like, yeah, she's right. Like, this is very obviously a dumb plan and very obviously a way to get Emma and Olivia to have a scene together. Not that I necessarily hate that. Yeah, it's just, it was, I think, hard for me to enjoy it on like a pure entertainment value, because they just kind of reminded me too of a lot of the discussions people had in season like 8, 7 of Game of Thrones, where it's like they're just pulling these strings to give us these like fan service moments of
like
stuff
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, well, that's an insane level, but like, you know, the dragons going past the wall and things like that. And they can work things into the story where like maybe it makes sense in this context, and it's cool to see them maybe drag Viserion out of the ice, but it doesn't hold up a ton when you actually want to think about it longer than what my eyeballs are seeing. But them giving us this idea that Rhaenyra now has, I don't want to say carte blanche, but she no longer has this illusion that there's an ending other than war, is worth it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
And
that's my very long, wordy, verbose hot take.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it I feel like this is the thing that's going to push Rhaenyra to act, you know, and I think she needed to know that there is no way that we can get around this. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fucking gorgeous around the altar when the candles. It's like a flashback to season 1 when they were younger. I think it's beautiful. I think Emma Darcy looks fucking incredible in that septa outfit. I was gagging. I was punching my bed. I was like, my fists were like this the entire time. And I was like, say it. Say what he said. Like, it was crazy. I understand your hot take, but I think I would understand it more if I was a book reader. But as a TV watcher, I was like gobbling it up. I was and then
if you want to put me on the spot too, and me come up with an idea of Rhaenyra getting this illusion dropped and getting this type of concrete information that there is no hope with Alicent, I don't know of a way to do it. And if you're gonna do it, might as well get Emma and Olivia a scene together.
Yeah.
That's gonna, like you said, gag everyone in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. It's just my hot take being that I couldn't turn a blind eye to those other feelings, let's say.
And then I'll be honest, like the idea that you can get that close to the previous queen without like there being more of an issue is also something I was gonna say as like part of my hot take. So part of my hot take was what you were saying, dropped it halfway through because I like the hand necklace being worse on Kristen Cole.
That's a terrible hot take.
But I also I'm like Kathleen too, where I'm not a book reader, so I enjoyed the scene for what it was. But the only thing that really bothered me was how unrealistic it would be to get somebody that close to the queen without there being any issues. But
yeah, I saw some funny things of like, there's no way Rhaenyra could get through the streets of King's Landing with that lethal of a face card. Like, people would recognize her.
Literally.
But also, it's just funny that this is a direct impact of them not doing the colored contacts throughout Game of Thrones, where if she was actually like a purple-eyed Targaryen, this wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Unless you put like actually something over her face, like she wouldn't be able to walk through the streets with them purple eyes. So
yeah.
That's it,
all
right?
Yeah. I was going to say
LVPs.
that's really all I had.
I went first last time. So.
Yes, you did. Lean, you can go first this time.
All right. My MVP, I'm going to give it to Rhaenys. What a boss. Also love her outfits. They dress that girl within an inch of her life. She looks fucking awesome. And then my LVP is going to be Kristen Cole. No, I'm kidding. It's
my God.
It's really not Kristen Cole. I didn't think about an LVP. I'm gonna say Aegon. What a dick, right? Like, gotta be Aegon. Total dick.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you or me? I don't remember who went last time.
You can go.
Okay. My MVP is gonna be Kristen Cole. For all the reasons I said throughout this episode, he showed the flashes of his competency as like an actual battle general and being level-headed about the dragon. So good for him. That's probably all he's getting from me. LVP, Alicent, just for what I was saying at the top and in that scene where I am uncomfortable with her accepting this new reality that she lied and not doing enough about it. So I can't support her, and I've been saying that. So that's where I'll leave it.
My MVP is going to be Sir Simon Strong.
Yeah, it's a
good one.
What a goat. Can't wait to get more of him. Hopefully we get more of him. And my LVP is going to be Gwayne Hightower.
Hmm.
Just totally cocked up the plan, man. My boy, Kristen Cole saves his life and the day. Kristen Cole, he's adaptable. He's versatile. He's going to change the plan on the fly and it'll be okay. But dude, oh my gosh. Act like
No.
you've been here before.
Yeah, right.
Jesus. All right. So that's going to do it, right? That's everything.
Mhm.
I don't think we do
Yeah,
anything
man.
else. So episode 3, The Burning Mill, House of the Dragon season 2. We'll be here weekly covering these episodes. We love hanging out and talking about them. We love interacting on YouTube comments, on Twitter. The Discord especially has always been a good time. So if you want to support us and hang out, the best way is going to be subscribing on YouTube, subscribing on either the House of the Dragon feed or the main Bingetown feed that I mentioned at the top of this, and then also joining the Discord. That's the best way to join the conversation with us. We love to chat. There's 4 more of us in Bingetown that are also watching House of the Dragon. So we're all involved in the conversation. And then there's a bunch of, we're at 250 strong already in the Discord. So we're there chatting, we're there hanging out. So that's the best way to join in on the fun beyond just being a listener. And like I also mentioned, we're covering The Bear in the future. Dark Matter just wrapped up, which was a fantastic ride for us. The Boys is currently going on right now. So we've got a little bit of everything for you in the TV world. And yeah, we'll see you next week. That's all I got. Once again, we are Bingetown TV, and thanks for listening.